What's up, everybody? Welcome back. So this is my 2018 Gibson Les Paul Faded, and it is absolutely my favorite guitar ever. And there are such cool modding platforms. You know, you get the beef and the chunk and the resonance and the like crazy sustain of any other Les Paul, but the bodies are a little thinner, and this one's weight relieved, so it's a really good weight. It's like 8 pounds and 4 ounces, I think, somewhere in there, if I remember right, which I might not, but it's about 8 pounds. And I've done a lot of mods to it, and I've kind of made it my own, and I wanted to share that with you guys just to show, like, you know, you can get one of these and make it your own. And to me, this is my favorite guitar I've ever had, even when it was stock. I just did a bunch of little stuff to it to kind of make it my own, but, you know, I guess I'll tell you guys kind of the story of how I ended up with this thing. You know, back in 2018, I was very anti-Les Paul. I thought they were like Blues Lawyers guitars, and they were overpriced, and blah, blah, blah. Kind of true, but I picked up a Agile Les Paul copy at at Trade Up Music in Portland, Oregon. I was there just looking at different guitars, and I just happened to pick it up. I was like, wow, man, this thing's got some serious sustain, and it's got this like big chunky sound, and it's like really rich sounding. I don't know what pickups were in it, but I ended up buying it. It was like $100, and I played it for a while. You know, I gave it a setup and cleaned it up and played it for a while. And after a while, I was like, man, if I really like this thing, I'll bet a real Les Paul would be even better. So I went around, went to all the different music shops trying to find, you know, the Les Paul for me, and none of them really made the cut, man. None of them are really it for me. Like, definitely not worth the money. You know, you think they're like 25 times the price for a standard. None of them were 25 times better. And then I found this thing. You know, I played all the standards on the wall, all the classics, all the other, you know, versions of Les Pauls they had that were real Les Pauls with the binding and the trapezoid inlays and, you know, the pearl headstock logo and everything. And my girlfriend at the time pointed this one out. She's like, why don't you try that one? That reminds me of my grandma's coffee table or something like that. I was like, yeah, I want a real one though, but I was like, all right, I'll try it. So I plugged it in, and the first like chord, I plugged it in like a Black Star amp or something, but I just knew like the first chord I had, I was like, dude, this is the one. It just made me play better, and it sounded so good, and it just fit, and it was just awesome. So don't discount the lowly fadeds with the dot inlays, even though some of them you can get with trapezoid inlays, because they are great guitars. They have just as much chunk and beef and sustain as a full-size one, but you get a thinner body like the Studios, and they're really well weight relieved, which I think adds to the resonance of it and adds to the natural unplugged tone of this thing. It's a real Les Paul. It just doesn't have binding and trapezoid inlays, and it's a little more comfortable because it's a thinner body. This one has a slim 60s neck. It came with 490 pickups. They were uncovered. We had the typical, you know, Kluson Deluxe tuners on it. So I guess I'll get into some of the mods I did. When I got it, I buffed the top out on a buffing wheel when I worked at Taylor. I just thought it looked a little better shiny, and same with the headstock. It was very dull, and I buffed it out, and it looks a lot better. Check that out. Let's see if it'll focus. Oh yeah, it focuses close. I got a new camera, guys. Told you I was going to do it, and I did it, and it was totally worth it. I've got the eye autofocus on, so when I take it down, it just poop. Goes right to my face. I love this camera. It's a Canon RP. So I buffed out the headstock. I buffed out the top, but not the back. You guys are probably wondering what happened here. So when I got it, it had really bad fret sprout, and so I fixed that, and I polished the board up, and I put tape over the board, and the paint was so fresh that when I went to go to remove the tape, it pulled off the finish. I did this down here. I rounded this over because it was kind of sharp, but I wanted it to feel more worn in. I lost a little bit of finish up here too, and I'm not going to fix it. That's part of it now. That's part of its character. That's what it is. And these look cool when they're beat up, when they lose a little finish and get some nicks. I take pretty good care of my guitars, but I've got a couple little nicks in here, little scratches. When I was buffing it, I went through the finish here. But that's part of it, man. I think it's going to look cooler as it ages, you know? So, let's see, what else today? We'll start at the headstock. I just put these Kluson, what are these called? Revolution Series tuners on. The stock Kluson ones have a really, really high ratio, so you just barely touch it and it goes out of tune. I keep this thing in drop B So that B string, man, with those tuners, was just impossible to get it in tune. They also started to kind of loosen up and then weren't holding tune as well. So these are adjustable. You can adjust the tightness of them. So as they kind of loosen up, you can tighten them down. It'll stay in tune a lot better, and it's a lot easier to get them into tune, especially with lower tunings. I made an ebony nut for it out of scrap wood I got at the scrap heap at Taylor. I handmade that myself, and it stays in tune perfectly, and it's really comfortable, and you know, it only really affects the open strings, but it's a little duller than, you know, when it's fretted, but it doesn't sound bad at all, and it looks cool, and I made it, so I'm proud of it. I put a, you know, black-white truss rod cover on here. See, here's the thing. This thing wants to focus on my face, not on what I'm putting in front of the camera. There we go. So I put a black-white. It had an all-black one. I just thought that looked a little better. And then on the body here, I put a custom, Les Paul custom pickguard on with the black-white, black-white, black, which I thought looked better. I put some Gibson nickel pickup covers on there, which I thought looked really cool. I was top wrapping it for a while, so I've got some wear on the tailpiece. These are the lightweight aluminum ones. Oh, I see. I just have to cover my face with it. And then I put these 60s style reflector top knobs on and some thumb bleeders, just because I thought they looked kind of cool. And then we got the, what are these, Dunlop? Oh, dude, I forgot the name of these. Yeah, they're Dunlop, man. Dunlop strap locks. This thing wants to focus on my face so bad. And then I went with the aluminum, or the nickel output jack plate. It had plastic on there. It was fine. It hadn't broken yet. Wow, this thing's like locked on. It's that one area. That's crazy, dude. This focus is rad. And on the back, we still have the stock plates. Every time I try to order these, the like glossy ones that come on the newer standards and higher, they're out of stock. But I want to get rid of these rough, nasty ones and put some like nice glossy ones on there. But the wood grain looks really nice on this, and I love that it's somewhat satin and you can feel the pores in it. It feels natural, and it just feels really good, and the finish on the neck feels really good. Oh, and I put an Alnico 8 magnet in the bridge. I actually, you know, most people don't like these pickups, especially for metal, but I love them, especially for doom metal. This is my doom guitar, and my just big, crunchy, rich, thick, lush, just like crushing riffs, dude. This thing is perfect for that. But I wanted to tighten up the low end a little bit, so I put an Alnico 8 magnet in the bridge and left the A2 in the neck, and that did it. That tightened it up and made it just a little bit hotter, and it sounds great. On the fretboard here, you can see some of these inlays down here are dark. I went over those with a Sharpie because I wanted to see what it would look like with no inlays, because the dot inlays bothered me. I'm brainwashed into thinking that means that it's a lesser guitar, but what I'm going to do when it's ready for a refret, which is going to be a long time from now, because these crypto frets don't wear very much, man. They're really strong. I wish they would have kept with the, what are they called, crypto or cryogenically treated fret wire. It's like stainless steel, man. It just barely wears. I play this thing pretty much every day, and it's barely got any wear on it. But anyway, once it's ready for a refret, I'm going to take these inlays out and put wood in there. Put some like kind of reddish wood to kind of match this, but darker. Somewhere in between this reddish brown color and this darkish brown color. And then put stainless steel jumbo frets in there. I just think it'll look really good. I also rounded over the edges, and I did this is the first fret end job I've ever done. And I did a really bad job. They look awful. I don't know how well. Oh, dude, you can see that. Look at how I like triangle them off. They look really bad. I've done thousands of fretboard edges now, and they look a lot better nowadays. But these are comfortable. They just don't look very good. They're kind of triangles. But it is what it is, man. Eventually, like I said, I'm going to refret it, and it'll be rad. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's still got the stock PCB board wiring in here. I've flirted with the idea of just rewiring it, putting 50s wiring in there just to play with it, but it works fine. You know, once it craps out, obviously I'll just rewire it. That's not a big deal. Yeah, I think that's it, guys. if you're on the market for a Les Paul and you want to make one your own, and especially if you want one that you can play and you don't have to feel like you have to be careful with it all the time. I had a 50 standard. I didn't want to mod it because I didn't want to, change the resale value. I wanted to keep it as original as possible, and I was always really careful with it. But this thing, I don't mind if I knock it on something. It's like, it happened. There's another battle scar. But if it was a standard or something and I turned around and knocked it on a table, I'd be freaking out. So I was always careful with it, and I don't want to be careful. I want to focus on playing my guitar, you know what I mean? So these are rad. Favorite guitar. See you later, guys.